Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the royals, and that's it. We end with our weekly feature, the comments of the week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 85.
Yeah, my mic's on okay.
Okay. You always do that. It's like a vocal thing. You'd go, bleh. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra. I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
We should talk about other stuff, but there's nothing else to talk about this week except royals. It's been a lot.
Yeah, it has been. Well, all right, so you saw Sound of Metal on my recommendation, and I saw the Chicago 7 movie on your recommendation.
Oh, nice.
I loved that movie.
Right?
You were right. It was really good.
It's a great movie. I can't believe they made a courtroom drama that good. It's maddening, but it's really good, right?
Yeah, and I am not a big Sacha Baron Cohen fan, but he was excellent in that.
He can act. I was surprised.
Not only can he act, he can do a really good New York American accent.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that because you can't tell.
You could tell a little bit with Eddie Redmayne. It wasn't like a pure American accent, but yeah, he was still a good Tom Hayden.
He was pretty good. He played that kind of prissy liberal guy well. His friend was really funny too, the kind of goofy friend.
Yeah, they're like Cheech and Chong. That's like, that was the whole vibe, and it was awesome. Like, they made it work within the story.
They did. Yahya Abdul-Mateen was excellent.
Oh, yeah. He was the Black Panther.
Yeah. The guy he played is still alive. I looked him up. He's got like a private Instagram, and he's still alive. Because I had seen Judas and the Black Messiah, and the other guy, Fred Hampton, the head of the Black Panthers, got murdered, but he didn't.
Yes.
So I took a walk. That's my big news. I took 2 walks this week. I was going to take a walk before we talked, but it was too windy, and I was like, it's too windy.
I'm going to take a walk later on.
It's nice out. It's been 70-something. It's very relaxing to take a walk. We've talked about this over the months of lockdown.
Yeah, I actually don't like taking walks when it's this sunny and warm. It like bugs me for some reason. I like it when it's colder.
Oh, I like it when it's warm.
Yeah, I don't mind when it's like overcast and windy and cold. That's like a great time to walk for me.
Oh, wow. I like it when it's sunnier. I'm very prissy about getting cold and wet or anything like that, you know?
It's just very relaxing. I feel very chilled out after my walks.
Yeah, it does feel relaxing. I liked that. Oh, I didn't talk about Sound of Metal. I really liked it. It was sad, but what you were saying about Riz Ahmed is true. Like, you never doubted that he was that guy. He just is amazing.
It was a very lived-in performance, and once again, you couldn't tell that he was actually English.
I didn't know he was English either.
Yeah, well, he's worked a lot in America, and he's very good at slipping into American accents.
I thought he was an American guy because I haven't seen his interviews.
Yeah, in interviews, he has a very nice British accent.
Oh, wow, that's impressive. And I like the woman who played his girlfriend Lou, Olivia Cook. I know her from Bates Motel. That is an underrated series that I highly recommend. And she was very good in that.
I have not watched that, and so I did not recognize her at all. I thought they got like an authentic kind of rock and roll girl for it.
She played a young woman with a disability. I think she had like a lung problem or something in Bates Motel, and she was nothing like that. Like, she's very preppy in that. So she's an excellent actress.
But yeah, wouldn't you be happy if Riz Ahmed won Best Actor? I would. I would love that.
I would. It'll go to Chadwick if he's nominated in that category. He was nominated at the Golden Globes, but I feel like he's going to be nominated for supporting.
Yeah, I think if his performance is sort of on the edge of it could be supporting or lead, I think they would probably go for supporting because it would be more of a sure thing.
Yeah.
Which would also mean that Sacha Baron Cohen would not win for the Chicago 7 movie.
Oh,
which
for supporting.
I'm not mad about that. Like, I really liked him in the role, but I'm not going to cape for the guy and say that he should totally win an Oscar.
I'm Googling Oscar nominations. It's March 15th, right?
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's March 15th. So we'll know by the time this comes out. No, we'll know the day after this comes out because we're coming out the 14th. All right, so let's talk about the royals. We had Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah that aired on Sunday, and it was so sad, so much more revealing than we expected, and they went through so much more than we could have imagined, and yet we still got the feeling that they were holding back.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This was a shot across the bow. It was them saying, you know, hey, you guys, we have receipts. Cut the shit out. You know, just stop fucking with us. And, oh, by the way, here's what we can say.
They made it very clear, the timeline of what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Was that they pulled their security, told them that Archie wouldn't have security because he wouldn't be titled.
Mm-hmm.
And they also never lifted a finger to tell the press to stop smearing Meghan. I would say Meghan and Harry, but it was all Meghan. And at the same time, they were controlling her by telling her how much she could go out, and they took away her passport, driver's license, and keys. Now, some people are complaining. You wrote about this today. It's Thursday when we're recording. People were complaining that, well, it's customary for them to take away her driver's license. But as you wrote, she used that as an example of how she couldn't seek help.
Right. She couldn't seek help. They kept her isolated like abusers do.
Yeah.
It was very clear the pattern of what the palace was doing to her by keeping her isolated. She had to go through them to go anywhere, to travel. And every time she did travel and go anywhere, they leaked it.
They leaked her details.
Yeah, she went to New York for the baby shower, and Kensington Palace leaked that information.
So she revealed in 2019, when she was pregnant with Archie, that she was suicidal, and she reached out to palace officials, and they told her they couldn't do anything for her because she's not a paid employee.
Right. And she was kind of careful about who said that to her. I got the impression that she went to a senior royal and that a royal turned her down. But other people interpreted that as maybe like the Lord Chamberlain or maybe the Queen's private secretary, somebody like that. I don't know. I have no idea.
And they don't have psychiatrists or psychologists on retainer that they can just have come discreetly visit her.
Charles did that with Diana. Like, he brought in psychiatrists for Diana, but it was always him bringing in people that he knew, and she didn't trust them.
And they would report back to him, like in Mad Men.
Right.
This makes so many other stories we've heard make sense, particularly why she didn't use the Queen's doctors to give birth, the stuff about the birth certificate. There's just so much that makes sense in light of this, and it shows the pattern of them trying to isolate, push her out, and erase her from this family.
Yeah, we didn't know the extent of the erasure that she was feeling from the family. We absolutely knew that the royal courts and the press were all lining up against her, and they were actively trying to harm her psychologically.
Yeah.
We knew that at the time. We knew how abusive they were being and how Kensington Palace wouldn't say anything. The Queen's people wouldn't stand up and defend this pregnant woman.
You and I knew that, and the people who listened to us knew that, but the general public wasn't cued in to how much the royal family had a hand in that.
Oh, I mean, it was always very clear the silence from the royal family.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are able to read anything critically, if you just don't believe every garbage story that the tabloid gives you, of course you realize that this was a very obvious smear campaign and that the tabloids were getting their talking points somewhere.
Yeah. So we talked about this in Zoom, and this is Karen, Courtney, and Susan. And Karen's talking about the Everyone from Zoom watched it together. I didn't go because I had the Critics' Choice Awards to watch at the same time, which I barely paid attention to. But
we were on the call, Katie, Sunday, and we were literally speechless after Meghan said she was thinking about killing herself. And none of us knew what to say. It was heartbreaking. She was basically held hostage. No passport. I mean, went for help. Sorry, we can't do anything. You can't leave. I've left twice in 4 months. And basically isolating her. I really do feel like they were hoping she would either leave or kill herself.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like the only thing they learned from Diana is if we would have just pushed a little bit harder, we could have gotten her to kill herself instead of divorcing Charles. And it's absolutely terrible that that is the takeaway message that you get.
And this all just comes from jealousy. Diana was a star after that Australia trip and said that's when all the trouble started for her. And the same thing with Meghan after their trip. That's when all the trouble started, when she did such a great job and got so much publicity and everybody loved her. And each time they react with jealousy and try to shove that person down and ask them to be, less than, right? She said she was asked to take it down 50%.
All along, you've been saying that everything changed for Harry and Meghan when they went on that South Pacific tour and she was met with so many crowds and adoration.
Right. What has come across overwhelmingly over the whole Meghan episode of the royal family is that the royal family's instincts are always completely tone deaf. They were happy for Harry and Meghan up to a point because they thought, well, this is going to crash and burn. She's never going to be successful. She'll divorce him in a year or so. And she got pregnant right away, and she was good at everything right away. She was good at the job. She was very popular. She was, hailed as this bright new addition. And the pregnancy and the success of the South Pacific tour, oh my God. And that's when everything just went haywire, right after that.
Karen has been saying for a long time that Meghan got pregnant too fast for the royal family. They were really critical of her up until then, and when she got pregnant, they worked so hard to kick her out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were expecting. If they were surprised that she got pregnant so fast, that's on them. I mean, she's an older bride. Of course she was going to get pregnant right away. That was the whole reason why they kind of rushed the wedding. It was because they wanted to have kids.
Yeah. So Meghan and Harry dropped a kind of blind item that we've been talking about ever since.
Yeah.
Which is that someone had concerns and conversations, is how he phrased it, with Harry about how dark Archie's skin would be when he was born. And they wouldn't say who it was, but Oprah told Gayle King later, when she was on CBS this morning, that it wasn't Prince Philip or the Queen. So everyone is saying it's Charles or William.
Right. All right. So Meghan said there were concerns and conversations about how dark Archie's skin might be. But Harry came in later and said that that conversation happened before Meghan was even pregnant. It happened very early in their relationship. Now, was Meghan aware that there were other conversations when she was pregnant? I bet she was. Mm-hmm. I bet they were still talking about it when she was pregnant. But there was a turning point for Harry when they were first dating where someone very senior, and I believe it to be William, said something about, what will your babies look like? Something like that.
And you wrote about that today because there was more on this blind item, like who could it be? And you remembered that falling out that William and Harry had over Meghan in 2016.
Right.
And your coverage of that.
Yeah, and the way that the falling out is described, that there was some sort of verbal incident between William and Harry as Harry and Meghan were first dating. So William says something to Harry about, like, you're moving too fast. Take your time to get to know this girl. And it never made any sense to me that Harry would react so strongly to William condescendingly, patronizingly saying, this girl. Take it slow with this girl. I mean, Harry would be mad, but it wouldn't be this massive brotherly falling out. So I think that William said other shit.
That makes a lot of sense, and a lot of people agree with you. That was my first impression of this was it had to be William. And I've kind of gone back and forth in my mind trying to figure out.
Yeah, me too.
His whole family's trash.
I mean, William was my first thought as well. And then I was like, no, it's got to be Philip. And then Oprah was like, no, it's not Philip or the Queen. You know Philip was saying some shit behind the scenes, though. Come on.
He's a horrible piece. Yeah. He's still alive.
Yeah, no one's mentioned Philip since the interview because he literally outlived his usefulness.
Terrible but true. Oh my god. Oh. And if he dies soon, it'll be from Harry and Meghan's interview because
they'll ride that corpse to the very end. But remember when you got mad at me for saying that man had one foot in the pyre? He does, though. Come on.
It's such an old-fashioned saying. I don't remember getting mad at that, but it was funny. It sounds funny now. So we last. No, man, I can't get it together. Last week we talked about the tights. The kids' tights, like this stupid fucking story that was never ending. We finally got clarification on this years-long story smearing Meghan that she allegedly made Kate cry at a bridesmaid's fitting.
Oh, wait.
And
okay.
Meghan,
wait. So we talked about it last week because they kept using that same fucking story.
I forgot.
They were repeating it as of last week.
Okay, I forgot. I thought you were talking about it because it was an example of something that took years to clarify.
No, like it was in the Telegraph and the Times of London. They were like, oh, by the way, remember that story about Meghan making Kate cry? That's another incident of bullying. It was part of this whole bullying character assassination against Meghan that they were doing before the Oprah interview. So anyway, that's just the background.
Okay, I forgot. A lot of these stories run together for me because they're all so ridiculously bad and over the top. So Meghan made it clear that Kate was the one who made her cry, that she sent her flowers to apologize, and that the story got reversed and used to smear her. And it sounds like some textbook white fragility bullshit that Kate was pulling.
But, like, it's legit crazy to think about how that got reversed. How did it get reversed?
Yeah.
Was Kate really, like, telling people that Meghan made her cry? Like, how fucking crazy is Kate?
It's what Trump does. Like, he tells Hillary she's colluding with Russia and shit. What they're doing is they're telling Meghan she's a bully. They're telling Meghan she made Kate cry when they're doing all this stuff to her.
Yeah, I guess, but
it's outrageous, yeah.
Yeah, it's outrageous, and it just, in this very specific circumstance, it feels like Kate is batshit insane, and like no one is saying so. Like, how did that get reversed?
She's very much like Melania Trump in that if you only look at it from a very surface level, you could say, oh, she's in an emotionally abusive relationship. Her husband's cheating on her. She made her bed, and she's very happy to lie in it and to lie on behalf of the crown. She's a piece of work.
I don't think Kate is happy in her marriage, but I don't feel bad for her because...
No, I don't think she's happy. I mean, she's happy to play this bullshit role she has.
Yeah, like she's happy to be the little fragile white woman.
Yeah.
They're still like, oh, she's a big girl. She can dress herself. You know? Like...
She's getting her voice. She's keen to do this great new thing. What happened to that new thing? We heard about it in the fall, remember?
Yeah.
So here's a segment from Zoom where we talked about this. And this is Karen, Michaela, Tanisha. That's a lot of people talking, so I'll put it in the post. It's episode 85.
And she was very kind to Kate.
Yes.
Kinder than I would have been. The fact that she was like, you know what? She upset me. She owned up to her mistake. I accepted her apology. And, you know, I don't want to bring that up because she owned it and we addressed it. She was nicer than I probably would have been.
That's the part that really pissed me off because I'm sitting here like, this woman made this woman cry, couple days or weeks before her wedding, when she knew what she was dealing with. She knew she was dealing with crazy ass toxic father. She knew her sister was being batshit, and she still did this to her. And then her husband and their media team leaked the reverse to the public and just sat there gleefully about it. That's some bullshit. Like, that's what really pissed me off, because I've dealt with that shit from white women in the workplace. And for her to go on TV and extend so much grace to this woman who doesn't deserve none of the grace. Oh, she's a good person. No, the fuck she's not. That really was the thing that had me like raging. Like, you wouldn't get that niceness from me. No,
but she wouldn't have been able to go after her, though. If she would have gone after her publicly, Michaela, they would have drugged her worse.
No, I agree. I don't think she had to go after her, but they could have said, this shit's not true. Done. Meghan did not make Kate cry. Done. But they chose not to. But yet they're out here talking about denials for wigs and denials for Botox and all this other shit. That's what made me like, oh.
The Kate stuff is what kills me the most, honestly, because it's very triggering. I think every Black woman has been in a situation like that and been on the end where you're made to look like the villain and the mean, aggressive Black woman. That whole thing with Kate is what pissed me off the most.
I don't think if Kate got called out for it and then started crying, that doesn't erase what she did. That's you not being able to deal with being called out with it and the response.
Yeah. One time someone said something racist in front of me, and when I was upset about it, they took me aside and apologized and started crying to make me feel bad for them, because they felt so bad that they upset me, and they just really wanted me to know that they weren't like that at all. It's a manipulative move to cry. You cry because people are seeing you for who you are and because you're not getting your way. Yeah, maybe Kate did cry, but she cried because she's an asshole. Like, that's all there is to it.
And we know the whole weaponizing of tears is a tale as old as time anyways.
So yeah, Kate was behaving like we just saw Sharon Osbourne act, which is, don't you cry when you're accusing me of something and I'm going to cry.
Yeah. It's Duchess of Karen bullshit.
Yeah. She's weaponizing tears, like Amira said.
Karen Middleton. Yeah. That's
Karen Middleton. And the fact that they were still using this up until, we'll talk about this a little bit later. This document that I made for today is a mess because so many stories came out. And I'm just trying to go through it. There's so much stuff. But they're still using this bullshit against Meghan. It says so much about them.
And even though Meghan has directly refuted it now, they're still trying to twist it some way into Meghan is now attacking Kate because Kate made Meghan cry. And therefore, Kate is still the victim, you guys.
Okay, I'll scroll down to that part. We can talk about it.
It's in several different stories now. It's in several different stories that Kate is still the victim because Meghan attacked her now.
And the worst one was from Richard Kay in the Daily Mail.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so funny. I'll read a little bit. Again and again, Meghan steered the conversation around to Kate, their status, and how differently they were treated. Or at least that's what she claimed, and it bordered on obsession. The interview simmered with barely concealed resentment towards Prince William's wife. Like, what? No. Meghan went out of her way to be nice about Kate.
Yeah,
and
to
told
defend
people not
Kate.
to compare them.
And Meghan still refused to reveal exactly what Kate said that made her cry. And you know that shit was bad.
And you know she has receipts.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, she has witnesses.
Yeah. She probably sent email to people about it, describing exactly what happened. And that's her receipt.
Like,
she
as
did.
per our discussions, remember when Kate said I was a, fucking bitch or something like that? Or that my wedding was tacky or...
It's under the wedding section in her folder.
Yep.
So the article also tried to compare Meghan and Kate, and it included this one line that a lot of people noticed that is just really racist, and it is that Kate is resilient. Middleton family blood has seen to that. Remember that article about exotic blood thickening up the royal bloodline or something? First of all, it would never occur to me to think like this unless I was a horrible racist. who thinks in terms of blood and bloodlines. Royals do because they're racist, and that's what they're feeding these royal reporters.
Well, all right, so I have to admit something. That was horrendous. The exotic blood thing, that was, like, objectively racist and horrible. But royals are not the only people who think like that. Indians think like that. There's a whole caste system, like, you know, Brahmins marrying Brahmins. Like, it is a thing. There's a thing in a lot of cultures to think about the bloodline. But there is this belief among the elites of whatever caste system that every now and then you do have to marry an outsider so that, you know, you just won't have cousins marrying cousins.
Okay, I didn't know about that. That makes sense. It's still kind of terrible the way they're using it against Meghan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is why the royal family was okay with Kate Middleton, because she didn't have any aristocratic blood. Because she was like from stocky peasant, you know, whatever.
Stocky peasant stock.
Yeah, peasant stock. I said that the wrong way, but she is stocky.
She's lanky. She's not stocky. You tweeted this clip of Camilla Tominey. She's the one who wrote the story about Meghan making Kate cry. Mm-hmm. And she was interviewed about this after the Oprah interview aired. And I wanted to play a part of that for our listeners because as you tweeted, she's jumping through hoops trying not to say that the royal family is her source.
Right.
Yeah. So here's that clip.
She couldn't understand why nobody stood up for her. Nobody phoned up and said, that's not true.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But it wasn't as if the entire machinery didn't have plenty of time on their so-so to address that if they didn't think it's true.
She also said that very machinery was part of the reason that these stories continued to be perpetuated was because nobody within the establishment, the institution, stood up for her. They let you write these stories, but they didn't ever refute them.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, this is what Harry talked about, the invisible contract.
The clip is hilariously funny. You can just see the little wheels turning in her head about, oh, do I want to reveal my source? No, because I still want to be able to get shit from Carol Middleton or, you know, Jason Knopf or whomever was her source for that. So she's not going to throw them under the bus. So she's just going to like try to be in denial and say, oh, I disagree.
So we finally got a statement from the royals on Tuesday afternoon our time, which was the evening their time. Mm-hmm. And Tuesday morning, they were saying that the Queen had refused to sign off on a statement to de-escalate tensions with the Sussexes. And then the statement they issued was fucking terrible. It was so rude. And everyone's focusing on, while some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately.
Which I think is just as bad. Be addressed by the family privately is just as bad as while some recollections may vary. Because last week, they made this huge fucking deal about how they're going to conduct this big investigation into Meghan bullying palace aides. And now it's like, oh, but we're going to deal with all of this horrendous racism and structural racism within the institution. We'll deal with it privately. Don't worry.
Private family matter.
Don't audit us or anything. Don't bring in any outsiders to look into the kind of shit that we're up to.
Oh my God. And then the article today that you covered, it's Thursday again. The article where they were like, we hired a black guy to work with her. We never had a black guy before, so we're not racist. This was everything they did today. They had an article with Charles saying he's not racist. William said he wasn't racist to a journalist who asked him. And then there was another whole article completely showing their hand saying, well, Meghan was bossy, basically, and we didn't like her, and we hired a black guy to be her mentor. So she should have been satisfied with that.
That we hired a black guy to be our mentor story came out on the Sunday morning before Meghan's interview came out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I just got around to covering it because it read so much like that Rebecca English story that I also linked to within that post. It was like basically the same thing, which is that they're once again blaming Meghan because she didn't twist herself in knots to be the perfect docile something or other that they needed her to be. And it was always a contradiction of,
That came out Sunday then. Okay.
And I said that in the post. It was
Sorry.
just kind of... No, it was a really crazy story. And there were excerpts from that story going around on Twitter like for days.
And Katie Nichol had a piece in Vanity Fair with Charles's reaction. He said he didn't watch it. And there's not a racist bone in his body, and to suggest otherwise is very hurtful. It's, again, like they're hurt by us saying they're racist, or by the Sussexes saying they're racist.
And as a lot of like British commenters and like British whatever race relations people have been saying, like that's actually pretty common. It's not specific to the royal family. That's the way a lot of white British people react to being called racist. Is how dare you hurt me with that accusation of being racist? That's an attack on me.
Yeah, that's what we just saw Sharon Osbourne do. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's textbook white fragility. That's all it is. I wanted to give you credit for this. We talked about this in the last podcast, 84. You said that Meghan could say the sky is blue and Piers Morgan would say she's sick in the head for promoting woke blue sky propaganda. You wrote that on March 4th. And I saw this quote from him and I was like, oh, Chandra must have seen that quote. No, he said this on March 8th later. He said, I don't believe a word she says, Meghan Markle. I wouldn't believe it if she read me the weather report. So just 4 days after you said that, he said the exact same thing.
I think my version was a lot better, though. That
it was.
He should have said,
creative.
if she told me the weather report, I would accuse her of being woke about the weather or something like that. He could have shown a little bit of humor about it, but no, because the man is psychotic and he's obsessed with her. I mean, like, it really physically bothered me to hear him talk about Meghan over the past 3 years because it was dangerous. His obsession with her was dangerous.
Yeah. I went and looked through Finding Freedom again. I just searched the digital copy for Piers. She had drinks with him once. That was it. To talk business stuff. And then he got obsessed with her. And a lot of women on Twitter are talking about this. This has happened to me, where you think it's about work or you think it's a casual friend thing. And the guy thinks it's a date and is an asshole and is creepy for months.
Yeah. It's not even like, oh, it could be misinterpreted as a date or something like that. Like, for her, it was just regular old networking. Like, that's all it was. It was just a professional thing. There was no reason for him to think that it was a date or anything like that. He just became crazy obsessed with her. And like a true stalker, he went so negative and so toxic.
Did you see the picture I've been using of him hugging up on her wax figure?
Ooh.
I know, it's creepy, but... So he left his job at ITV. They let him sort of make it sound like he did it on his own volition, but he probably got fired.
Yeah.
And over 41,000 people complained to Ofcom, which is the FCC of England, I think, about him dismissing Meghan because he's dismissing mental health. And Meghan complained, too, to the head of ITV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was great. Like, that's a great way to handle it. She's never engaged with Piers Morgan directly at any point.
Yeah.
On Twitter, anything like that. She's never said his name or written his name, but she went to his boss and she was like, let me speak to your manager. You need to fire this guy. Good for her.
Yeah, and they knew they need to fire him anyway. There were so many clips of him talking over people of color who were guests on his show. And then he walked out when the weather person on that show, Good Morning Britain, called him out for basically being petulant about Meghan because she cut him off and she hasn't talked to him.
Right. And like that clip is really difficult to watch. The man's name is Alex Beresford.
Yeah.
And he is so patient. And the way Piers was coming at him and screaming over him, it's very difficult to watch. And ugh.
That's how I felt about the clip of Cheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne on The Talk. I mean, it's hard for us to watch. I can't imagine people of color who've had to be in that situation having to watch that crap.
Yeah.
So Meghan's friend Janina Gavankar was on a show called This Morning in the UK. And she confirmed that Meghan has the receipts for all of this, which is what Meghan was saying too, but I think she just got authorized to go in and make it
underline the point.
Clear.
Yeah, underline the point. Meghan's point was never, I have receipts. She just peppered in that fact throughout the interview. She would just say, you know, I was emailing these people. I wrote a letter here. You know, it was very casual. And so Janina was sent in to just underline the point, just emphasize and say, you know what? There is an electronic trail. I was reading another story about what Janina said. The British press is freaking out about what she said. And they were doing like a primer on who Janina is. And they had in bold letters, she played a lesbian on the L Word.
I know her from True Blood, and she was a werewolf in True Blood, and she was really good. Like, I remember looking up who she was because I was like, ooh, she's pretty cool. I swear I did the same thing with Meghan when I first saw her in Suits, because my mom used to watch Suits, and she was kind of mesmerizing on screen. I was like, who is that woman? But
I never watched Suits, but I saw Meghan in an episode of Castle. She was the killer.
Ooh.
Yeah. She was very good. She was played a very like princessy little like Upper East Side girl. But yeah, I just thought that thing with Janina was really funny. Like the British press is like trying to run all these like side smears on Meghan's friends. And they're like, she played a lesbian.
Oh my God. So we talked about the receipts on Zoom, and this is Tanisha, Amira, Michaela, and Sarah.
The purpose of that interview was not to tell on anybody, but they are willing to tell on them if it comes to that. I promise you.
That interview was a warning shot.
Absolutely. It was putting them on notice. It was like, oh, you thought we weren't smart enough to document. You thought we weren't smart enough to have receipts. Well, actually, you keep pressing that button. Watch.
But we've watched The Crown and we've watched the Diana documentary, because this is the thing. Diana wasn't always as long-term strategic. And that's the bit that Meghan brings to everything, is she's a planner. First, we're going to terrify them into showing their hand before the interview. So they were very clever at how they put those trailers out. They've underestimated Meghan the whole way through. And they've underestimated the fact that she's got a backbone because she is older, she's more experienced than Diana. And also, although Diana kind of hit back later in life, Diana actually wasn't always that strategic because she could be hot-headed. And also she didn't have necessarily the same circle of influence that Meghan and Harry have. And they didn't have access to social media. Once again, they haven't learned that the game has changed. It's moved on, and they're just still so intent on everything staying the same.
They kept comparing them, Meghan and Diana, and they don't get that Meghan was a whole ass woman with a whole career and friends and people who knew her and were willing to stand up for her. Diana didn't have that. She was a teenager.
Yeah, I agree with Sarah that the game has changed and they're still playing by the old rules, and Meghan has outplayed them. She's 10 steps ahead of them. She's telling them that you want to bring it because I've got more.
Yeah, and they do have more. The Oprah interview was just the tip of the iceberg. Will they give another interview anytime soon? Who knows? I think they're waiting to see how the palace is going to react. So they're just waiting. They know what they have. They know the stories they can tell. They know the names that they can name.
And they have a podcast and a Netflix deal. They can spill so much shit.
Did we talk about Kate and William visiting the school? Did we talk about that much?
No. Okay. So we didn't talk about Prince Charles visiting the black people at the church and what he said. Like he was visiting the vaccine site.
First of all, the optics were terrible. All right. So he was going to a vaccine site, which is at a predominantly black church in London. And He was the first royal to step out for a big public event after the interview. Whoever in Clarence House decided on those optics of Black people bowing to Prince Charles, and that was supposed to be good for his image. And then he's like trying to be all chummy with all the Black folks there, and a lot of them were not having it.
He said to a Nigerian woman, "Oh, fantastic. Yes, I've been there. Lots of different ethnic groups. Do give them my kind regards next time you speak to them." He could have said, "Do give your family my kind regards." But it sounded like she was telling her to say hi to Nigeria for me.
Say hello to all those lovely ethnic groups.
And this is what they've been saying, why they're not racist. We have colonies that are Black. We can't be racist. That's their argument. I got that off Twitter. I didn't come up with that. But they basically said that.
Yeah. Some of our best peasants are Black. Yeah.
And let's play that clip of William getting asked if his family's racist.
Sir, have you spoken to your brother since the interview? No, I haven't spoken yet, but I will do. And can you just let me know, is the royal family a racist family, sir? Yeah, we're very much not a racist family.
Terrible. He's just awful.
Yeah. He could have said, we're working on it, and, we're going to talk these matters out with our family, which would have been in line with what they said before, but he had to deny it. No, we're not racist at all.
Well, and there was an American anchor. There's a clip going around right now as we're talking. These two local news anchors are pointing out the fact of, have you spoken to your brother yet? Not yet, but I will do. So it's been 4 days since the interview, and he hasn't contacted the brother, who is obviously, going through it and quite devastated about all of his family relationships breaking down. And he hasn't contacted the sister-in-law, who was suicidal because of a huge smear campaign.
And she lost her baby last summer.
And so William didn't contact them in 4 days. But don't worry, not yet, but I will do.
You see your brother on TV say that racist things were said about him and his family, right? You see your sister-in-law say that she wanted to kill herself, but you still haven't called yet?
All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. So my comment of the week is on the post about the Queen not signing the statement supporting the Sussexes, and that came out Tuesday before they had that weak-ass statement. And Len B said, this is just the setup, they will respond. I think William will do an interview. And Alexandria wrote, what's he going to say? He was at Pizza Express while everything was going on, and it's not his fault.
That was funny. My comment of the week is from the story about how Meghan filed the complaint against Piers Morgan through his bosses. And Rapunzel wrote, tell Piers I want him to know it was me. It was from Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Game of Thrones. Oh my God. All right. Thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks for this week. Bye.
What were you going to say?
Thank you for this week. Oh my God.
Oh, it's no problem. It's been fun covering all this stuff. It does feel like Super Bowl-ish. Everyone is very focused on royal coverage right now.